you and good morning. I hope I'll never be referred to as some kind of hockey mum, but I am indeed a political beast. I love working with the West Midlands regional MPs, and I love helping them to understand the agricultural industry's point of view. And this is just as well, since my job with the NFU in the West Midlands means I do all of this on a daily basis. So it's as frustrating to me as I know it is to all of you when policy doesn't seem to match up with reality. And I got to thinking that there must be more that I and you can do about this. I said in my Nuffield application that my study would be all about giving the industry a voice and giving me a voice. And in many respects, I do understand that the industry punches massively above its weight. But given the challenges that now face society, I think it's time for us all to raise our voices. At the beginning of my Nuffield adventure, I was told to expect the unexpected. And I remember sitting in the Farmers Club thinking, yeah, as if. But it's true, some incredible adventures have come my way. So from having lunch with Lord Plum in the House of Lords, to meeting some amazing entrepreneurs in Ontario, to hearing the passion of the livestock farmers in Nebraska, to meeting Bill Clinton's agricultural spokesman on his farm in California, to having back-to-back meetings with some amazing agricultural industry leaders, to hearing the most fascinating story of my travels in China, to hearing the enthusiasm and passion of the young farmers in Ireland, and to have been asked to co-write and present a paper at an international congress in New Zealand, and to finally having an offer of marriage from an Argentinian farmer while I was there. It is with grateful thanks that I give my thanks to the Nuffield Farming Scholarships for the award and for the opportunity, and also to Nuffield for giving me the flexibility to pursue it, and also to Matt Andrew, my long-suffering partner, for giving me the confidence to make the most of this award, and also for not saying he wished I'd taken up the offer of marriage. So what are these global challenges? Well, you know them as well as I do. They've been incredibly well documented, not most recently in the Foresight report, which was published earlier this year. So what we need is for agricultural policy to rise to these challenges, and instead what we've got is a policy framework which continues to feel confusing and complicated. And so I set out on my Nuffield scholarship travels with an open mind, some searching questions, and to seek out good practice. And it wasn't long before I found it, particularly in the US. And so my study concentrated on next generation leadership, public influence in agricultural policy, and avoiding unintended consequences. To help me with my study, I met with groups of young farmers, and I was really enthused by their passion and interest to get involved, and I think there's merit in us doing a lot more with them. In America, engagement and leadership skills in the next generation of farming leaders isn't taken for granted. Time and again, I heard of initiatives to get younger farmers involved in the politics of their industry, at whatever level is appropriate to them. Leadership is often an uncomfortable word in the UK. In America, it's their focus. So come on UK, we've started to support our next generation seriously, but we've got a long way to go to catch up the Americans. Public reaction to the discussions on the introduction of GM crops is perhaps one of the best examples of how the public can and has influenced policy and therefore agricultural development. There have been many examples before GM, and there have been a huge amount since. And whether we like it or not, social network groups such as Mumsnet and 38 Degrees provide incredible opportunities for everyone to have their say and influence policy just at the click of a button. And it's not a UK phenomenon. In the UK, in the Farm Bureau, I was told that public perception of the livestock industry is their #1 challenge. In Canada, public perception of pesticide use isn't great after following a number of pollution incidents in rivers. And in New Zealand, the public are concerned about the ability of pivot irrigators to change landscapes. And yet in China, I felt what it feels like when there's a lack of integrity in the system. The dairy cows that we saw in China were grazing in meadows. And when we asked about the integrity of the marketing message, we were told we do it because we can. That wasn't the word they used, but I couldn't possibly repeat them. Depending on your point of view, the unprecedented interest and awareness of food provenance, amongst other issues, could either be seen as a massive opportunity or a huge challenge. Some farmers are indeed excellent at capturing public interest and using it as part of their marketing and branding. However you do it, I believe that from small to large-scale enterprises, all will need to embrace this philosophy if they want their business to continue to grow. And why is this so important now? Well, for many reasons, but to name just one, we have upon us the Localism Bill. Our government is determined to devolve power, including planning decisions, down to the local level. And in some respects, there is room for optimism, but for one-off developments such as poultry houses, polytunnels, whatever, I'm very concerned about how this might be rolled out. And so with my local councillor, I did a very unscientific analysis of representation on the parish councils in South Shropshire over the last 10 years, and found that representation of the farming community has reduced from well over 50% to less than 10%. Time to get involved, I suggest, not just for your own enterprise, but for Agriculture PLC. Telling the story of agriculture close to home amongst your neighbours is becoming a business essential. And the good news is we're pushing at an open door. For whatever reason, the public continue to think farming is special. The opportunity is there for the industry to bring our local communities and therefore our consumers up to date and help them understand modern day agriculture. And we've got lots we can learn from other countries, not least in Nebraska, AFAN, and also the Centre for Food Integrity, which says just what it says on the tin. It helps involve integrity and understanding in the food system. My worry is that if we don't crack on and do something about this, others will prey on our lack of action. And so to the final element of my study, I looked at unintended consequences. And as I went round, I asked the question, are unintended consequences inevitable in a society that's moving forward? And I'm not sure I ever got a straight answer, so I suspect the answer is yes, because we can never know the full outcomes of policy decisions. But all were very quick to say to me, well, but what people need to do is make sure they get involved to help avoid the undesirable. And for too long, it would appear to me that policies both here and in Brussels have been based on popular vote and nostalgia rather than being based on scientific evidence. America provided a wake-up call when, even before he was sworn in, President Obama had confirmed the names of his dream team of scientists and announced, well, this, which basically says, I'm going to put science back on top of the policy-making agenda. Europe is trailing behind. Only the UK and Ireland have identified that science needs to play a big part in policy development. So my question is, where do the other 25 member states get their evidence from when they're deciding on policy that not only affects our industry as well as theirs? And we've got no room for complacency in the UK either. We use a process of impact assessments to help development of policy. But the problem is, the very same people who are developing policy are also doing the assessment. And whilst we've got scientists in each department of the UK government, evidence of them using scientific support to develop policies isn't always clear. I had one chief scientist say to me, it's a case of on tap, but not on top. Perhaps we can learn a bit from Europe here. They have an independent impact assessment board, but looks at these documents as they come forward and sends them back if they're not good enough. Well, the theory's good. I'm not so naive to think that I can change government systems, but perhaps I can encourage some of you to get more involved. The Hansard Society was able to confirm that being lobbied by a local constituent has way bigger impact on an MP than being lobbied by a pressure group. And yet research shows that only 4% of society really gets involved. And I know what you're thinking, I've heard it before. Even when we do get involved, there's so few of us that others drown out our voice. Well, believe me, politicians understand the statistics, but if you want them to raise their heads above the parapet, they need to know that they've got your support. So what have I done with all this? Well, the easiest person in the world for me to influence is, of course, me. So I've had a word, and I cracked on with various bits of action. I organised and ran a regional conference looking at the challenges ahead of us, to which I had the Secretary of State, possibly more importantly, the Chief Scientist speak. I've written articles at each stage of my journey in the British farmer and grower, and that's helped create debate. And I've spoken at numerous meetings and events to raise awareness of the challenges and the opportunities. I ran workshops in 3 counties with groups of younger farmers and used the learning from that to help launch an initiative in Herefordshire. And hopefully I've inspired others, not least Lord Plum, to think about supporting our next generation of farming leaders. I've written and had approved a regional plan for the rollout of the West Midlands Next Generation Initiative, and I've been able to use this to help influence rollout of the national NQ Next Generation Initiative. And I've taken a different approach to how I brief our regional MPs. I'm more supportive, more action-focused. NFU members love it, and the MPs, well, they sort of like it too. And there's more on the horizon for me to do. I've already got a date in my diary to speak to the WI to see if we can't be a bit more constructive about how we take their mega farms debate forward. I've also got a date in my diary to speak with the county associations and parish councils about contemporary agriculture. I've got various regional surveys underway which will give me local evidence I need to help firm up my political asks. And of course I need to get on and deliver this regional next generation plan and make sure I use my report effectively. So I feel as if I'm doing my bit, I need you to all ask yourselves, are you doing yours? And if there's anyone out there still unconvinced about the power of the collective power of the industry, then perhaps the most outstanding story of my travels will help convince you. This is Mr. Li. He's a farmer from Guangdong province in China. And he told us that in the 1980s, the population of China was starving. Basically, collective farming wasn't working. So 18 of them got together in 1982 and realised that this couldn't continue. So they all got together in a small village, and by pressing their thumbprint onto a letter, they managed to change agricultural policy in China. What the letter said was, let us farm the farms ourselves, and we'll increase capacity, and with this additional production, we'll pay you a rice tax. And this rice tax can be used to help feed the nation. And they were so convinced that this would work, they said that if it doesn't work, you can imprison us, or worse still, kill us, so long as you continue to look after our children. Fortunately for all, the farmers are right, and 18 farmers go down in history as changing the lives of 1 billion people.